when you read 110 to 115,000 comic books, a lot of it sticks, and then some of it, someone will ask me a question and it's like, boy, I know I read that and I have very little recollection of it, which tells me that it was kind of a middle of the road comic. I'm Bob Bretall and I collect comic books and related ephemera. I have somewhere north of 120,000 at this point. That's not the number in the record book, but I'm working on transferring my stuff to a new database, and I'll be updating my Guinness number, hopefully by the end of the year. From the moment that I started reading them when I was 8 years old, I got sucked into that world, and it was just, kind of a connect the dots of all these different things where I went from one thing to another, but I just kept reading them, and I read them to this day. There are collectors out there, and they have a very limited definition of comics, or they really haven't bothered looking around at what's available, because there are a tremendous number of good comics have been published throughout the whole time I've been reading them. I try to make stuff kind of logically fit together. I kind of made an art gallery out of this stuff. These are all original art pages. A lot of art today is done digitally, but back in the day, they would do it black and white on these 11 by 14 art boards, and the lettering would be right on it, and then they would reproduce that and reduce it, and then they would do coloring guides off of that. So I've collected art over the years. I have two older brothers, and they're quite a bit older than me, like 8 and 10 years older than me. So there were always comics around when I was little. I remember reading some Uncle Scrooge comics or Richie Rich, or there'd be a Batman or some other kind of superhero comics. When I was 8, my older brother Russ, gave me a coupon that he made, that was good for 10 comic books, because I had kind of liked to read his comics, and I think he wanted me to stay away from his comics. So he's like, if you go to the store and buy a comic book and come back and show it to me, I'll mark one of the slots on the coupon off and give you the 15 cents back. They cost 15 cents then. When I was a little kid, entertainment options were very limited for me as an 8-year-old. I would cut the characters out of my comic books to make little paper dolls, and I would have adventures, and Spider-Man would fight Daredevil, and I would do all kinds of fun things with them. And of course, I destroyed a lot of my earliest comics by cutting the characters out of my comic books. This is a Spider-Man that I cut out of some early issue of Spider-Man that I had when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I had collected over the years all the issues of Spider-Man, but I didn't have his first appearance, which was an Amazing Fantasy 15, and which was always a fairly expensive comic. Around the time I got the record, I decided I was going to buy Amazing Fantasy 15. Over the last 51 years, I've bought every comic book that I have, pretty much, not individually, because I get like 30 or 40 new comics a week. So I'm still buying lots of comics, but I buy all these comics myself. I buy them kind of one at a time, and I read them all. If you've never read a comic and you think that comics are only superheroes, they're not. And if you're interested at all in the medium, and not everybody is, but just that the combination of art and story, I just love it. And some people that's going to click with, and other people it won't, but it's really worth trying out a comic book, and it doesn't have to be a superhero comic book. You can go to a comic book store and get all different kinds of things, and there's so many different kinds of comics, and just see if it's entertaining.